Hello, everyone. Welcome to It's a Long Story. Normally a thrice weekly campaign set in the beautiful world of Imea. But tonight we are doing something different for the second time, but for the first time actually streamed live for you all. This is Shadows of the North Shore, a campaign setting designed around a new game system that is coming out very soon. They're kind of like halfway through between it now, but it is called Candela Obscura. Uh, it is built around more of like the idea of like a cosmic horror type of game, and I decided to build a setting that actually I've been wanting to build for a long time around it. So this is Shadows of the North Shore. We have our lovely friends who are helping me out with this sort of first initial voyage into the setting. This is our group, the Masked Macabre. If you would like to go ahead and look at the camera, wave, and say hi.
Hello.
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 So, before we get started, just a couple ground rules. This session in particular is going to be getting a little bit heavier. For those of you who've been watching like It's a Long Story off and on from our other campaign stuff, this is definitely in the heavier vein of, cosmic horror games. So, there are certain things that if at any point in time you feel uncomfortable or whatever, obviously I just suggest you to kind of take a break from it. Maybe come back later, but um, I don't think anyone needs permission to do that, but you certainly can, and we understand that's not for everybody. Before we begin tonight, there is a couple of changes that we're making. Well, actually, a couple of things. So we'll say first, we very, very, very graciously, I'll say, have our beloved Fidget back. Everybody wave at Fidget. Say hi. So playing Anders. And we have everybody here by hook or by crook, various levels of health right now and things going on. So just want to say, I guess in front of the camera, I want to say thank you guys so much for helping me out with this. Let's see. So before we jump in, one other thing I will mention is that just a small, kind of like a small retcon that we had from last session. Last session we had a point where one of the characters was introducing his grandmother to kind of speak on behalf of Candela. We're going to kind of change that up for some reasons here. So we're going to say, for now, we're going to kind of move that in a different area. If you feel confused on that, that would be why. All right. So before we begin, I said that like 3 times now, but we're going to get a little bit of an idea of where we left off. And as the DM asking my players to do this, or excuse me, the GM asked my players to do this, I'm going to actually just do that for us. So from our space with our, I almost said heroes, but that's not exactly that type of game. Our future members of Candela Obscura. We were introduced to our players, our characters individually, starting with CB Porter, a young middle-aged man, I'd say 32, right? Living in the central part of Lynn, helping out his brother at the butcher shop, who seems to have something that is maybe a memory of sorts that's kind of come back to haunt him in several ways. The memory itself has cast kind of a shadow on on an event that we're not entirely sure what exactly took place. But upon trying to help or stop or intervene in that event, we ran into Sinclair Smith, a character who is uh, uh, in a various sort of state of, uh, we'll say, reckless homelessness. Um, Sinclair himself also is seems to have suffered from some sort of uh, accident, as he is depicted with bandages all over his face, and as they kind of probably kind of traveling down to the arms, wearing a big trench coat, and um, has is later identified by some locals as the term mincemeat, of which he does not appreciate that nickname. Moving forward, we meet in the in the Salem Yacht Club, um, having a very illegal game of poker between Harlow Decker or Decker and Veronica O'Brien, commonly known as V. Uh, we learn from that interaction that Veronica O'Brien seems to be the younger sister of what looks to be a somewhat nefarious family. Not really sure. We'll say definitely powerful, that's for sure. But seems to have hands in a couple of pots. Um, uh, Harlow himself, being I believe we kind of mentioned him as like kind of like an adjunct professor at Harvard as a studying. What was the subject again?
Um, Psychical studies. I think it's yeah.
Psychical.
Fringe esoterica and psychical studies.
Yes, I love it. Um, yeah. Um, upon having that meeting, having that interaction, and then splitting apart for various reasons, Veronica moves to a kind of seedier part of town, going into a bar where we find a very prim and proper young woman sitting in a booth. Am I wrong? Not prim and proper? Seemingly. Okay. Um, Sitting in a booth, enjoying a drink by herself, looking very much out of place. Uh, After a conversation with a couple of different men of various reasonings for the conversation, Veronica meets Audra, and both of them have a connection based on something that every single character is having, which is a letter that has been sent to them. A letter that specifically states at some point, uh, you are not ill, just misinformed, and inviting them to uh, a meeting of sorts in a place that is known as the New Ocean House, which is a hotel that has yet to be fully functional, as the road itself is still under construction going to it. Um, so, moving forward, we have a interaction between Harlow and Sinclair, as Harlow saves Sinclair from a group of young ne'er do wells who decided to use Sinclair as a punching bag. Um, Saves him, offers him some money in exchange for ominous advice on things that may or may not be happening. During that time, actually kind of cutting back to the bar, we unfortunately didn't have Fidget with us, but Anders was the person that actually, excuse me, Anders was the person that was uh, helping Harlow in that escape from the very sticky situation in the Salem Yacht Club. Let's see. And so finally, Veronica and Audra uh, head out to meet with Harlow, as Audra has conversed with Harlow before. Also, I think we decided to. I brought him tea from her shop at some point. Um, uh, and with that, all of our people met uh, in the morning in front of mid-afternoon, noon, in front of the New Ocean House, awaiting an arrival. And we're going to start from there. So you are all on top of the deck of a place that is clearly not available for business. You see it is rather dusty from the we'll say actually it's sandy from the beach that is not far off. You hear the gentle sort of like sounds of the waves just kind of like coming in from low tide. And you're all kind of just standing there sort of looking at each other. Feel free to roleplay this moment.
Good morning, Professor. Did not expect to see you here, but I suppose this is in your vein.
It does seem rather odd. Strange that there's a coincidence. I met most of these people in the last day. Miss Veronica, I hope you're not feeling too ill after your after last night. And Mr. Sinclair, was it? You ran away rather fast. I didn't get to learn your last name. And of course, Miss Hurst.
Smith.
Nice to formally meet you, Mr. Smith. The only one I don't think I saw yesterday was Mr. Oh, it's Porter. Yes. The butcher, right?
Yeah, that's yeah. Mr. Dooker, correct?
That's right.
Yeah. Do you know why we're here?
I don't. The only information I received was on a card, which I think some others might have received, which asked me to arrive here at noon. So beyond that, there was some cryptic text about illness and.
You're not ill. You're just misinformed.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm here to find out what we're misinformed about.
I'm sorry. Did you tell me what is it that you do, Mr. Can you say your name again? I'm sorry.
It's Decker. Decker. Yeah.
Like a deck of cards. I gotcha.
Yeah, that's the way. Yeah. I am a professor of sorts. I work in conjunction with Harvard, and I study the esoteric events and psychical phenomena and some of the more abstract scientific studies.
And then we got a little thief over there. No offense, Miss O'Brien. I'm just looking around, and then we got a big guy here, and professor, and Miss Hurst. She. It just seems like we're putting together an interesting group here. I'm sorry, big guy. I didn't get your name there. What was it?
Andres Lawson. And you
are? Cade Benson, but you can just call me CB. It's what everybody else
CB.
Call me.
Pleasure.
As we're seeing, because we haven't met Anders yet, so in this, at least as far as physical description goes, so as we see the sun kind of like pushing over the deck, and we see probably like gleaming off the window, giving a weird sort of like shine spot to a corner of Anders' what I assume to be very chiseled face. Could you please describe what Anders looks like? Anders.
Yes. Anders is a very tall, like probably 6'4", 6'5", very fit. Comes from a very wealthy family in Norway, and knows he looks the way he looks, and knows how to be charming and get his way, but tries to be very kind and cordial. And yeah, he's short brown hair, um, hazel eyes, slightly tan skin, built.
I
Dresses in.
was gonna say
Good.
CB
Oh,
definitely.
sorry.
He puts his hand out to shake your hand and does like the bicep grab just to see what's all going on up there.
Anders definitely takes your hand. Okay. And I believe I heard your name was Miss O'Brien. We met last night. And Miss Hurst, you said?
Yes. Audra. You can call me Audra.
It's a pleasure.
She blushes.
And with the bandages, Sinclair?
Yeah, Sinclair.
Pleasure.
Yep.
As we hear the sound of a car pulling up, having to maneuver around the construction that is coming up, and also we'll kind of speed through this next part that we already talked about last week. But before we do that, Veronica, you are you are being awfully quiet. What is V doing during this?
She's kind of assessing the group. I know that based on her background, she's very good at reading people, and she's trying to get kind of a lay of the land, trying to see which ones might be easiest manipulated, or that she could use against her brothers in some way, just to, I don't know, family scandal, just something to liven up the mood.
Okay, you got it. Upon hearing your name from CB, is there any reaction to that?
I think she locks eyes with him, and she's trying to figure out how much he might actually know about her family.
Do you? We'll say actually, CB. How do you think you know Veronica?
I mean, I know the family because they come to the butcher shop. We know the rumors, but I think Huey, my younger brother, 17, has been out a lot and not at the shop helping out his brothers like he's supposed to be. And I know he's been running with some O'Brien folks, and we're just trying to keep him out of trouble. It's just minor stuff right now, but he really wants to do the big things, and we're just trying to keep it to petty theft right now.
And when you say running with the O'Briens, I'm imagining he's not very important in my family yet, so I
it's gotta
would
be like
not
Aaron
know who
Lloyd.
he is at all.
No,
Cool.
he's probably with some distant cousins of yours that pretend like they're top dogs, but they're not.
Love it.
Yeah, she's just sizing him up.
Okay, cool. We'll say we'll kind of like let that kind of handle itself out as we continue forward. But as we hear the sound of a very heavy engine kind of stop, you see a very very interesting looking, somewhat of an interesting looking vehicle in the idea that it looks to be the vehicles during this time are either very very rich, and that's it actually. But this vehicle itself kind of looks to be a little bit on the cheaper side, not like an old money sort of thing. You see that it does look to be a little bit newer. You see it's kind of like a glossy sort of black. Um, this is for the players. This is a Model T, which has not been out yet. Correct. So as the vehicle kind of pulls forward, you see the driver get out. You immediately recognize him. Some of you recognize him as Alan Miller, the messenger that you had either given you that had given you your message to meet here, whether directly or indirectly. You see him get out, kind of like tip a cap to everybody. Yes. Sorry about that. We're a little bit behind schedule. You see him open the door. And you see he helps an elderly woman step out. This woman has like the very curly, sort of extremely light blonde hair. I'd say in this light, it's kind of hard to tell whether or not it's just white or light blonde. You can see it. There's a shawl around her. She immediately puts the shawl around her head and her shoulders that comes across. And you see her kind of like look up at you all from these very glassy eyes. She makes no introduction or expression, but Alan kind of helps her up the steps. And I think to change things up a little bit, he'll go, so we're just kind of opening the place right now, but I mean, might as well come in. And he's just going to unlock the door, and you're all going to kind of, as you all kind of clamber in. Moving down below, we already kind of talked about it last week, but I'm going to kind of go through it again briefly. Moving down below, we actually go a floor that is lower than the ground floor. That you can see looks to be some sort of small room, where you can see there's a couple of coats that are kind of on this very large rack. Just looks to be like some sort of coat room. However, on the one side of that coat room, you see there is a rather interesting looking machine, something that I believe we may or may not have said this before, but I think specifically Veronica, you would have seen before, because either actually I'm gonna take control of your backstory a little bit here. I'm gonna say that you did see it before at a place that is known as the Salem Willows Port. It is essentially where the Salem Yacht Club is, but it is a small little kind of like gaming area for kids. You see there's actually kind of like a small sort of tourist attraction, even sort of bubbling up now. This has only been around in existence for about maybe 10 years at this point. But in the like kind of penny arcades that were there, that you and your brothers would frequently kind of find a way to be able to distract eyes as you would take maybe a crowbar or what have you to the coin machines and getting money from it itself. You do remember at one point in time that you saw this same machine. It's in a glass case. You see that there's a very like rudimentary, like kind of, well, not rudimentary, more like a porcelain doll sort of representation of an older woman that we'll do this. Clean this up. I will say you remember this specifically because one of your brothers or one of your family members was about to kind of take a crowbar to it, and you actually had them stop. And you're not really sure why. Why do you think, actually?
I think maybe at that age it was just the wanton destruction of something that's supposed to be cool and like the part of her that wants to be a kid and doesn't want to be breaking into things and stealing things, didn't want them to break that.
You got it. Yeah, so I think in the space of trying to keep some things for the kids and recognizing that if you were to break this machine in particular, it would be very obvious that no one could use it for a time. So, your family member just kind of like shrug and just move on to the next thing. But yeah, so you see this is a figure that is known that has a thing across it that says Madame Zita Mueller. Uh, uh, as we kind of flash forward back to the scene, as you're coming back to it, you recognize that this depiction looks very much like the woman who is carefully descending the stairs behind you. CB, to move forward from what we did last week, you notice that there's a slot that seems to be open, where there is a space just big enough for for a card that you've been given.
Yeah, I think realizing no one else is gonna to step up, he pulls the card out and slides it right in the slot, and then just kind of pushes There was a door, correct?
Yeah. So you see like the animatronic sort of like being kind of comes to life. You hear a notable sort of behind you from the person that Alan said this was his grandmother, I believe, or he will. As you can tell, she's not a big fan of it. But you hear the door open behind. Sorry, not a door, but the wall itself kind of open behind. And you see Alan kind of just makes his way a little bit forward through the crowd a little bit and just kind of pushes the door as a way of kind of inviting everyone in.
Yeah, I'll walk in and get on a corner that is opposite the door so I can see everybody all at once and nothing can sneak up on me.
Okay. You do see, as you go into the room, you see that there's a very large sort of like round table in a very small kind of cramped room. Do you specifically choose to not take a seat at the table?
I think I'll stand behind the chair with like my hands on the back of the chair again, but opposite the door.
Awesome. Great. Anybody who would will say let's do this. Who's got this? Actually be Sinclair, it looks like. Sinclair, give me a read check. Or sorry, hold on. Sorry. You can tell this is the playtest stuff.
I am good at read.
You are, but that's not what I'm having you roll.
Survey. I'm good at survey.
I'm actually have Anders do a survey.
Survey.
Mm-hmm. Low stakes.
Well, I got a 6, so
Awesome. Anders, as you're looking around this room, you can hear you're kind of like Alan himself, kind of like bumbling a little bit with his words. Hi, sorry, just yeah, come on in. You can tell he seems to be like a little nervous. You get the feeling, and some of you actually know this, but you get the feeling that this is so new that you are most likely the first group, or the first sort of iteration of whatever this is that this meeting is taking place in. As you continue to walk in, you notice that there are certain things about this room itself that seem to be just not very lived in. Looking at the walls themselves are kind of like bare. You see that there's a lining of like darker wood that's kind of like paneling to to like the middle of the walls all around. You see there's plenty of space for like pictures or what have you up top, but you notice that there isn't any. The table itself looks bare, and I'll say with a 6, you also see that the even the carpet, which looks to be rather thick, does not seem to have any sort of marks of or marks or anything that seems to be of use. Looks like a brand new room.
Interesting.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like V's the kind of person who would try to let everybody else go in before her to keep like everyone in view.
Yeah, definitely.
And I feel like what happens as her and Harlow go in is that sort of like they both try to be last, and that like, oh no, after you. So
Awesome.
I think Harlow probably gives in eventually and just goes in, but just wanted to, I felt like that was probably something that happens.
Absolutely.
And Anders would definitely be the type to wait till both the ladies come in and pull out the chair for them.
Okay, so you're coming in, but then you immediately cool.
Step aside to.
You see, you see Alan notice as you pull out one of the chairs. Goes, oh yeah, that's right, yep. Sorry. And pulls out a chair. You notice the grandmother seems to be much more relaxed, very calm, in that sort of like. I think some of it is, especially for Anders, in the space of like, it's more than just a like elderly, I don't care sort of sensibility. It's you get a sense of just another formality, I think, from her. She doesn't seem to be familiar with the room, but she does seem to be familiar with the awkwardness. So finally, as you all sit down, all right. So, like I said, thank you. Well, sorry. Like I said last session. Just kidding. Thank you all for coming. I wasn't really sure who were all gonna turn up, and you did. So, thank you. I know you all have a lot of questions. I want to say I will try my best to answer them one at a time. But for now, also it's an important thing to mention. I think you feel free to walk out that door anytime. There are some things that we're going to talk about that may seem too real or not real enough. And either way, you're more than welcome. You see, he kind of like nervously kind of like taps the back of his seat. Anders, I'm going to say with that 6 roll, because that was great. You also notice that there is with his sleeves rolled up, and no one really noticed this until this moment. You see that there is a heavy scar on the top part of his forearm that seems to kind of go all the way up to about the elbow. Yeah, okay. So, just first and foremost, I'm just going to let you all know that from my understanding of how this normally goes, there's no good way to really start this. And I'm ready for the myriad of emotions that are about to kind of come out. But you've all gotten a letter from me that specifically stated you're not ill, just misinformed. We've all of us had some sort of feeling, reaction, maybe event, kind of actually like specifically points in CB's direction. Maybe event that has given us the notion that there is something more out there, something deeper, something beyond any human understanding. There's probably a lot of you that have suffered greatly in trying to figure out that that event or that feeling, and he absentmindedly points to Sinclair. I'm here to inform you you're not wrong. There are pieces of this world that is of a deeper understanding than, we'll say, the average Joe could even possibly imagine. Our job in this community is to push back against the beings, the entities, the creatures that would want to do harm to our side of the fence.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to stop you, Mr. Sorry, what
Miller.
was Mr.
Alan
Miller?
Miller.
Mr. Miller. I gotta say, I'm a little uncomfortable with how much you seem to know about everyone at this table today. But more, did you just say creatures?
Yes, I did. Again, I know it sounds like I'm selling you something very weird, and I get it. But yes, there are things out there that I would call creatures, Mr. Porter, and not in a bestial manner per se. Something darker. You see him kind of once again mildly rub his arm. So there are certain rules that are set in place for us to be able to be of the investigative for us to be able to investigate and to thwart in ways that we have come to learn over the years that has helped to kind of keep that threat at bay. And when I say threat, ladies and gentlemen, I mean threat. I know you've all grown up hearing the stories about this place. There's a lot of talks of things that go bump in the night, and we're here to find out which are real and which need to be taken care of.
It's those things that attacked me, isn't it? That's what you're talking about. Whatever the hell that was.
Him kind of like look at you. So, before we go any further, I do have proof for you all. And you see in the corner, I can't remember if I mentioned this when I was describing it, but there are some boxes that are kind of like in like random sort of parts of this room. You see him kind of like look over in the corner. One of them. I do have some proof for you all, but I will say at this point in time, there is a very strong reality that once you see this, you can't unsee it. We need people who are going to be able to face those fears as much as possible. But on a much lighter note, I recognize that is a heavy cross to bear.
Deckard is already over looking at the boxes.
If you're
As soon as
getting
he
up,
mentioned it, he gets up to go over to
okay. I'm sorry.
look at
I'm
it.
sorry, Mr. Deca. I promise I will let you see everything for now, but I want to say for your safety and for the safety of everyone in this room, I need you to stay put.
I can be patient.
Thank you. I'm giving this as a last opportunity for anyone who wants to go out and go back to their normal life.
Not much normal about it. I want to see what's in those boxes.
Fair enough.
I think Sinclair stands up.
Mr. Smith,
Uh,
is there something you wanted to say?
I mean, you said we could leave, right? Like we can.
You see him visibly like kind of like stop in his tracks a little bit, like he's a little shocked. Yeah, I did.
I mean, I'm just a little talking about a job and stuff like that. I mean, like, what is in it for us if we stay? Because right now that door's looking pretty good to get out of here.
I can offer you two things. I can offer you a promise that you will never have to sleep on the streets again. And I can offer you a chance to not only understand the thing that happened to you, that still happens to you, but to be able to fight back against it. For the sake of not only yourself, but everyone else around you.
I think at that, Sinclair just sort of like looks at him for a second and then quietly sits back down in his chair.
And notable sort of like sigh of relief. Okay. Anyone else?
Mr. Miller, I'm not going anywhere, but if something were to happen, you'll take care of my family.
If you're talking financially, Mr. Porter, I won't. Yes, Candela takes care of their own. Whether they are wherever they may be.
Okay, that sounds good.
I'm gonna take a look over at Audra. What is the vibe Audra's giving off?
I think Audra is she's probably very pale and looks fully terrified. But she's got gloves on. She's kind of fidgeting with them. In like a very nervous way. I'm trying to think of how I want to word this. I think she'll look at the people who are talking, and you said you could provide answers and information to us.
In a manner of speaking, I can show you the hallway where the door.
I don't know anything about monsters, but I'd certainly like some answers. And she'll take her glove off, and one of her hands is like gnarled, and like it looks like the hand of like an 80-year-old person. I have a lot of questions, and you're the only people who seem to know anything about some of the odd things that happen to us. So, if you can give us answers and help, I'll do what I can.
That's all we ask. For you to try your best. Good.
They're not big monsters, are they? They're not in...
If that's your concern, Miss Hurst. Sorry, I can't lie to you.
Okay.
All right. Now they sent me this over from the England branch, just in case anybody was curious, but also needed some proof. I get the feeling that I may not need to do this here, but I'm sorry. These are the orders. So. And you see him kind of take the box over by the corner. Actually, Mr. Decker, if you don't mind, can I borrow you for a second?
Yes, sure.
And you see, like, he kind of moves over to, like, sort of like to one side of the box. The box itself is probably maybe, like, no bigger than this. So like, smaller than a bread box. And you see he's kind of holding it from one side, like, kind of giving you kind of space to be able to kind of hold it from the other and having, like, one full hand over the cover. He looks at you and goes, Mr. Decker, you were specifically chosen because I think in the face of everything that we're going to see here, you would be one that would be able to react logically before emotionally. So if for some reason whatever comes out of this box I'm not able to handle, I need your help.
I'll try my best.
Okay. As much as you may want to turn away, don't close your eyes. And you see as he's holding it closed, there's a strap over the kind of like top of it that Harlow, from your perspective, you can see it's like it almost looks like a small like kind of like a belt strap, but it seems to be specifically designed towards it. You actually see there's markings on both sides of the strap that has a depiction that is very much like the back of your card, of the candle and the skeletal hand. Okay. Takes it off, slides into the middle of the table. For a minute, nothing happens. And you see the box itself. Start to move. CB, from your perspective, you see it kind of starting to kind of maneuver towards you, in a sort of like inching its way, like little by little. Mr. Porter, it's okay. Just do not look away, no matter what.
Miss Hurst, if you don't mind, just scooting back a little bit.
Yes.
You see, as you're both kind of saying this, you hear this as the box itself kind of opens up, and you see the top kind of scatter to the floor. You see Alan kind of like give a side eye to Harlow in the space of that cover, as he's just staring right at this box, trying to kind of make sure that it's not out of its sight for a second. As the figure comes closer to you, you see it looks like a hand that starts to kind of come up, has a like pale white, comes up slowly and starts to kind of maneuver itself around. CB, as you're looking closer at it, you see that the fingers themselves seem to almost stretch out before the hand does, and the hand seems to kind of catch up after it as the extended sort of fingers maneuver towards you. Start to hear that sound of gunfire.
Mr. Miller, this is a fine trick, but we're done here. Whatever you're doing, we're not interested.
Mr. Porter, you can make any decision you want after, but please just continue to watch the box, please. You see the box itself kind of turns over and faces you, as you see the hand itself start to kind of like pull itself closer to you, now probably maybe 6 inches from you. Do you look in the box?
Oh, I don't have a D20. Yeah, I think I would start kind of slowly pulling my hat off. It's the only weapon I have right now. And just as I'm kind of leaning back away from the table, looking down into the box.
Okay. You, as you look into the box itself, you see in the darkness that doesn't match the shallowness of the box, you see there is there's just blackness at first, and then a single eye opens up. An eye that has the jaundice sort of yellow, and it looks it looks like itself like has just like a brown iris, black pupil, and you see it kind of like blinking as it seems to kind of just grow bigger. And from that moment, you start to hear the horses, the sound of gunfire, the shouting building up in your mind.
I imagine like just everything around it just kind of goes black, so that all I can see is just that hand and eye coming out of the box. And I hear the horses and the gunfire. I think there's just that instinctual thing where I think he kicks the chair back and grabs it, and can I smash the chair onto the table?
Yeah, so you're smashing the box itself? Cool, you got it. Yeah, go ahead and roll me a strike check.
Okay.
While this is happening, Decker would have tried to sort of, keeping an eye on the box, either get up or if he can reach it from where he is, try to get the kind of just slowly walk over to where the lid popped off and try to pick that up, just, to grab it.
Yeah, you walk over and grab the lid. Yep, absolutely.
Okay,
that's fine. we'll say the most eyes are on CB and this box itself. That is it. So you rolled a 2. That is a fail. So you do slam the chair onto the table, and it's in this moment that you recognize that you've looked away. And as you look away, you now see what is truly happening. You're not hearing anyone else in this moment besides Alan and the sounds coming from that box. In the moment that you slam the chair down, you see Alan kind of put a hand over his head. And just, all right, listen, just look at me. I know this looks crazy because you see there is not a box. There's not one box in the middle of the table. There are 5 that are all positioned towards everybody else in the room, and yours is now missing. Okay, look at me. I know. It's okay. It's all right.
No.
I need you to put the box back, CB. I need you to put the box back on the table.
No. What is going on, Mr. Miller?
You can only control this. I need you to put the box back on the table. Trust me.
What where do you I don't have the box. Do I don't what box?
Use your sense. Use that feeling. Give in to it. It's okay. Something's trying to tell you something.
Why don't you just tell me, Mr. Miller? Why don't you just tell me what you need to tell me, and then we can go back. I can go back to the butcher shop.
I cannot tell you. I was not there that day, but you need to put whatever was in that box back on the table. Mr. Potter, we do not have a lot of time. Kind of points to everyone else in the room who is reacting like they are seeing something in the box. They do not look like they're in the same state of mind as you are. They do not seem to recognize you. They're not hearing this conversation.
Do I have the box in my hand?
Up to you. I'm going to say, let's do this. Let's have you roll, let's say, not your strongest suit at all, but I'm going to say, go ahead and roll me a sense check.
That's a 1.
1. Okay, cool. How do you try to bring this thing back into being?
Okay, the box. There's where's Mr. Miller? Where's the box? I can't put the box back if I don't have the box. You said the table is still there?
The table is still there, yeah.
Yeah, it must have flew off the table when I hit it with the chair.
Okay. All right. Mr. Porter, it's okay. Things are gonna start to look a little crazy, all right? So I need you to just stay calm and just keep on breathing, please. You see his face start to peel off as he's talking. The eye itself seems to sink slightly. Mr. Porter, whatever you are seeing right now at this point, I know I said to not look away, but I need you to close your eyes, okay? I need you to close your eyes now. Porter, you take a brain. and we're going to pause your scene there as the rest of you are getting an exact replica of what is happening, but with something different in each box. So, I would like you all to go around and tell me what is coming out of your box. You guys a second to think about it. Start with Anders.
Anders is like seeing almost a warp of reality, like non-Euclidean shift in everything, and just everything that makes sense is no longer making sense. It feels like the world itself is breaking apart.
Okay. So what you see inside the box is infinite nothingness. You feel the room inside you seem to kind of start to kind of pull itself into the box itself. You're hearing the same thing from Alan Miller, just kind of calling out to you. You see him talking to you and just like, Mr. Lawson, I know we didn't have a lot of chance to talk, but I need you to fight this however you see fit, whatever makes most sense to you. And we'll say, Anders, how are you handling this?
Just staring at that box, trying to follow orders and not look away, and kind of repeating like, I'm not crazy, this isn't happening, this is a dream, this isn't happening.
You got it. You start to kind of relate yourself to things in the room without looking too far away, because you were told not to look away. But without trying to look too far away, you're kind of like trying to split your vision into the idea of the other things in the room. And this is very difficult because there's not much in this room. So what do you try to focus on that is around? You still see that there's everybody else.
Whoever's sitting across the table, just try to see how they're holding their hands, how their expressions. Maybe try to focus on the color of their shirt, what they're wearing, the color of the walls. Just remind myself that this is not real.
Okay,
what I'm
got
seeing.
Go ahead and roll me a focus check, please.
Focus. A 2.
Okay. As you feel yourself trying to look at, we'll just take Alan for example. Alan is wearing very monochromatic clothing, which doesn't help in the idea of you trying to kind of pull yourself into a space of like the walls are a slight tan, or are they yellow? Okay. What would be the American term of the paint that is now coming off the walls as you see you hear the sound of a crunching room around you as you actually hear the very like small um, chandelier that's in the middle of the room kind of moving back and forth. At this point, as you hear the sound of walls breaking in, and you hear a very similar thing from Alan going, "Okay, all right, I know I said look right up, but I'm going to need you to close your eyes and look away. It's okay. I'm going to handle it. I'm going to take care of it. Okay." But you take a break. What do we see in Harlow's box?
So you see a fire, and then sort of superimposed behind the fire, you see a woman in her 20s and a young girl. And the young girl is saying, "Where's Dada? When's Dada coming home?" And it transitions to the young girl crying out in the night and the mother standing over her, and then still with a sort of fire underneath, you see pages with obscure writing on them, and they start to fly onto the two people, the woman and the child, and they react to them. and the pages start to cover them and smother them, and they try to fight it back as the pages just more and more pile up over that scene.
As you see this scene, kind of looking deep inside the box, you're hearing the same thing from your lightkeeper. You're hearing it. Okay, all right. Mr. Deck, I do not know what you're seeing in that box, but you need to find a way to fight it. Whatever you see fit. You're a logical person. Whatever makes sense for you to handle. Go ahead and tell me how you are trying to fight against this box.
He becomes sort of detached from the situation, and he pulls out of his pocket, without looking away, a little notebook, a little pen, and he starts to write out notes like about what he's seeing, about the box itself, the experience, its effect on his psyche, just anything he could think of in that situation to record. He is recording in the most scientific way possible, and splitting that sort of part of him from the emotional part to the raw. Just I am an observer of this event.
Okay. As you were doing that, because you said splitting, you pull out the notebook and you start to kind of jot down things as you're trying to keep your eyes on the box while you're doing that. A feat that for some would be very difficult, but you are someone who is very used to writing on all sorts of objects. As you do so, you feel the part of your brain where you are actually splitting into two different people in this moment. You start to notice that the person, you start to notice actually your hand that is writing all of a sudden an ethereal sort of hand itself, representing exactly what you have, with the markings all up and down the sleeve, start to kind of reach towards it at the same time. I would like I'll give it to you. I would like a focus check to try to bring yourself back to that one person.
All right. Let's see, 3. One of which is gilded, and I'm going to use a focus as well, or a drive as well, sorry.
You got it.
All right. Let's see. I'll take
One
the
of the
6.
6. Got it.
I'll take the 6.
Cool. With these 6, you're hearing the sound of muffled voices underneath the papers that are collecting, and you see in this moment, as you're continuing to write, you start to kind of flip the pages over, knowing that you've written everything you could, and you continue to kind of go to the next page. And the page, as you flip it over, doesn't go back to the back; actually continues to kind of move forward into that scene. And you notice in this moment, I just need to write faster. And you start to write faster and faster and faster, and you see inhumanly fast as you see the papers themselves start to kind of fly out. Eventually, just taking your notebook itself and just throwing it into the box itself, and you see the box itself just close up. What do we see in Sinclair's box?
The box tips over, and what you see is a mass of flesh that's sort of layers upon layers and layers of pig skin that's been sort of thrown on top of one another, with still bits of viscera and gook still put on top of it. And then I imagine as he looks at it, the sound of just pigs squealing, sounds that he might have heard, and the sights he might have heard working in leather or from past life, but just absolutely a shriek that's sort of just piercing his absolute being over and over and over again. Just a course of just animal primal sounds as it's sort of just sitting there in front of him.
As you're hearing that sound, you're hearing another voice in the sort of like in the kind of like off camera, just shouting out, "Yeah, we got to get these. Well, I mean, these pigs aren't going to slaughter themselves. Sinclair, can you help me out?" And you see he's holding like a very large. You see just a hand that's holding like a large shear, in the space of uh, it looks like it's being handed to you, but you can't see who it's from.
Is it? I think Sinclair just is so shocked and dumbfounded in this moment that he just and just sort of reaches out for it, just dumbfounded.
You take it. Yeah, you got it. You take the shear, and as you start to kind of do what the voice is asking you, you start to kind of walk towards it. Wait. No. Sinclair, you need to provide the coating. It's your skin that needs to protect everything else around it. Why don't you just show them how it's done? And you see the knife just start to get pointed at yourself. You are unable to control it in this moment as you feel it start to pierce into your already painful flesh. You hear a different voice, somewhat familiar. Mr. Smith, I know this is not your real name. It's Sinclair. Sinclair, I need you to fight back from this. I need you to figure. Sinclair, no, don't. That's not. Don't, no. Okay, Sinclair, you are. Put the shear. Put the shear down. Put it down. Take it off you. Sinclair, take it off. And you tell me what you're doing to try to keep this from happening.
I think Sinclair is going to just take a moment and start, as the shears are. I'm imagining the shears are sort of to. Actually, imagine they're sort of to his stomach in a way for some reason.
Okay. Yeah.
As they're just sort of to his stomach, and he's got the sharp end right, sort of digging in, but not quite cutting it. I think he starts to recall all the happenings he saw on his way in to the building. I think he's like all the signs he was sort of trying to take stock of that might have led to this moment. So he starts mumbling to himself. Saw a building with 7 broken windows. Saw a building with 7 broken windows. Saw a black cat last Thursday. Saw a seashell going counterclockwise. Saw a seashell going counterclockwise. And he's just sort of sitting there in that moment, just trying to recount these events that have mean little to nothing to anybody else, but they're either foreboding or grounding. There's something that sort of speak to something larger to him, and he's just sort of just continuing to mumble those over and over again, trying to get some sort of control.
Okay. As the shears themselves start to dig deeper into your stomach, go ahead and roll that focus roll for me, please. But as this is happening, you start to see an oil-like substance start to drip out from your stomach onto the floor, and as soon as it touches the floor, it immediately catches flame. You see the flame itself is starting to kind of build up closer to the wound as the shears are digging deeper and deeper.
Great, my character's bleeding fire right now. That's awesome. Okay, I have 2 dice in focus, but I'm going to this gilded, and
you have a gilded. Yep.
And I have a gilded, and I'm going to expend a drive for this.
Okay.
So that's 4 total, I believe.
No, so there should be 3.
The gilded
3?
just replaces one of the ones that you have.
I gotcha. All right. All right, that's going to be a 6.
Okay, you got it. With that 6, you manage to stop yourself, and you look at the ground itself, and you see spaces of like almost like a bad TV reception, just as you're looking at the ground of this it's not carpeted floor. It's like a I would say you see like the heavy sort of marred wooden floor of like some sort of factory, and you see as it starts to kind of like glitch out and come in and out, you see the carpet starting to form. It's starting to kind of come back little by little, and you look at the box itself. You see the pigs themselves start to all kind of like look at you, and you hear the like sound of their like screeching and like guttural sort of like oinking sort of sound. Just it's not an oink at all. It's really more of just like a screaming from a pig. You guys ever heard that? Terrifying. They're all looking in your direction, and with a snap, you look up to Alan, and you see him looking right at you, and then you see him looking at the center. Veronica. Does Veronica see?
I think V's pulled back to that first encounter she really had. She remembers stumbling home, dark night, normal night in Salem for her, and hearing like the sound of taking some liberty here, Joe. The sound of like someone crying, like a woman's crying in an alleyway. And she veers off in that memory. She veers off towards it and sees the figure of a woman at the end of the alley. But as she walks closer and the woman turns, it's not a woman. It's like rotting flesh, exposed bone, and it kind of cackles like something out of a nightmare, like a hag from a nightmare.
As you are looking at this face of horror that is kind of like seeing you from outside the box, but it's almost like you're like looking at a very small TV screen of what you perceived through your eyes. You hear the laughter, the hands themselves kind of move away as you see that rotting flesh, bits of hair that are still kind of like left over from this kind of liver spotted being. You hear the you hear her mumbling under her breath in a language that you do not think is from this world. And you see her kind of she points your jacket. She continues to mutter in this sort of like this demonic sort of undertone, and V, you notice that your the space where your jacket, we'll say your jacket itself looks to be not your own. A little too big for you. You hear that. That demonic sort of entity continue to laugh as you hear the sound of someone else crying. It sounds like a middle-aged man, maybe like in the 40s or so, and you the kind of the TV screen, will say, in a way, kind of turns to another position where you see there's another person who is crying on the ground itself. And I would like you, outside of what I've been making all you guys roll, I would like you to roll me a focus check.
Say 3.
3? Okay.
Mhm.
You do not recognize this being, but as you see the figure kind of lift his hands from his face as you get closer to it, you see there are no eyes. As you look at the head and the cheeks, and you see a bloated sort of complexion. You can see the cheeks and stuff. You actually, as he's crying, you actually hear the sound of like a low gurgle in his throat as you V hear this as you hear seawater splurting up through this man's throat, and it fully goes all over you. Help me. They put me with the fishes. I didn't want to be with the fishes. They took my eyes.
Whew.
Oh. You feel him reach out to you, grab you by the arms as you feel him kind of he's feeling around to the coat, and he gets to your hands, and it's up until this moment that you actually see your hands themselves are not covered as they normally are, or uncovered as they normally are. You see that there are these very deep, rusty brown gloves that are on them, and you see as soon as he touches those gloves, no, please, I've had enough. No more, please. You said my family would be safe.
I don't know who you are. I don't know what's going on.
You feel as he's holding onto your hands, he's refusing to let go. As you hear another sort of gurgling sort of sound, and you feel your face being pulled closer to his as he is pulling you in. What do you do to fight against it?
I think she just starts to struggle against it, and after just try to pull everything that she's learned from years with the gang fighting wise to try and break this hold that he has on her and run.
Okay. All right. I'm going to say this is a hard to say. I don't agree with the name, but I will say this is a hide action, as you are trying to break the grip that this creature has over you.
Oh, that's a 6 on the gilded die.
Nice. Awesome.
So I'm gonna drive that.
Yeah, you manage to slip your hands out of the gloves that are not yours. You take the coat off and you throw it to the man, and you try to take off down the street. Um, you see in the distance, you see the dairy house, um, uh, as it is uh, as it is no longer a version of V looking at this through a screen. You feel yourself fully immersed in this moment. You uh, hear the sounds of the laughter continue to follow you, coming from. You see this creature go from window to window to window, going to the street. You look as you're running by. You see a woman in like a parasol moving by. As you bump into her and just go, "Excuse me," and you turn to say something sorry, or at least to and you see the face just kind of cackling through that dress, as you see it twirling the little parasol, and at the very end of the dairy house, about maybe like 10 feet away from, or excuse me, like 20 feet away from you, you see you see Alan hat off, like rushing you in. Come on, come on. You gotta get in. Come on, come on, come on. Keep running, keep running. Um, and you you take a quick look back and see that the various versions of what you've seen in the windows from the woman, you see the man that is now holding these gloves, just running full sprint after you, and you turn and you just dive through the black hole of that door, and the box shuts. Finally, Audra, what do we see?
So Audra sees like pouring out of this box are like all of the creatures and monsters from the stories that her Oma told her when she was a child that always scared her, gave her nightmares. So like
Mm.
goblins and trolls and the Krampus are all running toward her, much more real and terrifying than she ever remembered as a child.
Um, you feel yourself for Audra specifically. Audra, you don't see a box, but you at first see a very miniature version of yourself in your own room. You kind of just peer in a little closer. Your perspective just switches like a flash as you now are looking down at the book that you read right after your Oma had closed it and said, "Okay, time for bed." And you're sitting. There's a candlelight over towards the nightstand. Um, uh, Specific story you're reading?
Say that again?
Do you think it's a specific story you're reading?
Yeah, I feel like she had a favorite. Hold on, I have a list pulled up. I have to find them. What's the wrong thing? I feel like I'm just gonna make one up. I feel like there's a story with a brave prince fighting a goblin that she's very fond of, and it has a picture of a goblin that always terrified her.
Okay,
But she liked the story of the prince.
you got it. As you are reading this story, you get to the page that you were. I'd say it's actually probably the page before from the like kind of setting the scene of this story. It's a depiction that you kind of like because you get to see the prince in his armor, fencing swords sort of at the ready, facing this goblin, um, as the goblin is kind of like holding a child, kind of standing kind of behind a child, and you start to read the writings of um, uh, and I think I'm gonna take some liberties here, but in Audra's voice pretending to be the prince, you say, "Unhand that goblin, unhand that girl, you filthy goblin. Have at thee." And you see there's a fight that seems to kind of break out. And I think in this version it's black and white, so it's just drawing, kind of like fighting with drawing in this moment. And you're looking at this, and I think Andre, you yourself can't help but smile. This isn't scary. This is cool. It's interesting. Um, Audrey, you start to see the as the fight break out. See the um, you see the prince uh, kind of starts to goes to like stab at the goblin. The goblin kind of blocks the blow with his free hand and knocks the fencing sword to the side, and the you see the prince turn and look towards you, the reader, and says, "Keep reading, dear Audra. I need to save the." As you see, the goblin is now thrown the body of the little girl and has now grabbed the prince by the throat. Um, and you can hear the kind of muffled sort of sounds as you hear the tearing of the throat. As you hear the last thing this prince is able to say out loud is "Keep reading." Um, Audra, what do you do?
I think she turns the page quickly to see how he gets out of it.
Cool. You turn the page and you see he is still on that other page. Um, you see that there are words there. Are you reading the words?
Mm, Probably skimming and maybe flipping ahead, trying to see, where does he get out of this? Where does he win?
Okay, you got it. As you skim, you see the kind of like the head sort of like shake back and forth as he is no longer able to speak. As you see red dripping from the page. This is a black and white book, but you see the blood looks like real blood as the goblin, like looking like he's laughing hysterically, pulls at the throat clean out. You see that it is gushing blood all down his very nice suit of armor, and you see him on his like hands and knees and just motioning to you no. um Audrey, you get the feeling that you have to read.
Okay, I'll read. I'll read from where I'm at.
Hmm. So you read from where you're at, and you start to kind of read. You recognize that as you're reading, the words themselves start to get bigger and bigger. You're running out of room. What if the prince doesn't get saved by the time you get to the end? um what are you doing to pull yourself out of this situation?
I think she starts. She remembers back when she was a child and she had nightmares like this.
Mhm.
She remembers a German nursery rhyme, which I don't personally know any German nursery rhymes.
Mhm.
Um, but she remembers like one that Oma would sing to her. So I think she starts like maybe just very quietly like humming it to herself, just
Okay,
trying to like bring that comforting, that safe feeling back.
you got it. um as you're humming, you're still kind of reading that the text as you can feel yourself kind of getting to the end of the book. And we'll say for this, as you are, I'm going to say this is a focus check.
Okay. I'm definitely spending a drive. I got a 2 and a 1.
As you continue to read through the pages, and you're humming, and you're starting to realize that there might be certain points to this tune that you're now making up as you're coming down on different notes, and you see the goblin kind of like looking up at you as you were flipping through those pages. Every time the goblin seems to be like laughing, pointing at you, as the prince is now at the point of like head kind of resting on the ground, blood now literally dripping off the page itself. You see the little girl get up from the side and grabs a knife from behind her back and runs in. And as you're feeling like for a moment, okay, it's working, you see the girl move past the goblin, pushing him out of the way, and starts stabbing into the prince over and over and over again. You hear a voice that is totally detached from anything that you're seeing right now in the room, going, "Audra, okay, all right, we're gonna end this. I'm sorry, but it's time to close the book. Close the book, Audra. Close it."
Try to close it.
You close the book and you take a break.
Ugh.
In the various versions of each of your stories, there's a certain point, and we could say it doesn't happen all at once, but it does happen while this situation is unfolding. You all eventually kind of snap back into reality as you're hearing the kind of like warbled sounds of Alan talking. So, anyways, if there is, it looks like everybody's okay to continue forward. So, unfortunately, there is a thing that we have to do. There's a box that we have here that is going to kind of give a thing of sort of explaining how, and you see that there's nothing in the middle of the table. So I know it's going to seem weird, but I assume you probably all don't need this, but it helps to kind of keep everything sort of in a level sort of head. So, Harlow, actually, can I borrow you for a second? And he moves over to
He moves what?
He like moves over to kind of grab the box. This is
From the
happening
corner again? Yeah. I mentioned that, I don't know when I would have done this, maybe after the box snap closed for me, that I went to go grab the lid. Do I have a lid?
You look down at your hands, and your hands are in a space that is like in a space as if it's holding a lid. There's nothing there.
Right, but there's nothing there. I believe we've already done this part.
No, I understand. You all had your own certain experiences, but unfortunately, they kind of like make me do this to.
What the hell just happened? He didn't see that.
We already opened the box. We opened it, and if this is a test, usually I give the tests. I think we are done with the box for the moment. Everybody agree?
You see him kind of like looking around. Harlow, you have no idea that you might have just appeared. Like, for the record, you don't know if everyone else has noticed.
Right, that's what I'm kind of.
Right. Yeah.
But I would guess if everyone went through that they all have probably some.
How do you all react?
And,
yeah.
I think Veronica's very shocked right now. She looks shocked and panicked and breathing heavy and not
Yeah.
okay.
Let's role play this moment. Sorry, Mr. Deca. I don't think there's you can interrupt me. Mr. Deca, I don't think there's any like you know what, this place has been just recently made. There might be some things in the walls that haven't really been
No,
I don't think
no,
you're
I
understanding.
saw it.
It's we went to the corner. We opened the box.
This box.
Did everyone? What happened?
I was by myself. You were all gone. There was.
Okay.
You were there. Do you know? Do you know what I saw?
Yeah, you were there.
You were.
You helped me get out.
You see him kind of like have like a pained sort of smile on his face. Looks over in the corner of the room. Did everyone get out?
I think so.
I'm here.
Looks over at Anders. Mr. Lawson, are you with us?
I think so. The fuck was that?
I'm sorry, everyone. Unfortunately, it looks like we've already had that experience. This is a sense of what happens beyond that veil. I hope that at a certain point you still were able to hear my warning and everyone was able to make it out okay. And he's kind of like looking around at the group. And, do you think anybody shows any signs of mental strain besides the obvious?
CB's doing the manly cry. I don't think there's any snifflings, but there's tears going down his face.
Yeah, it was Audra's crying as well. Quietly.
Anders is almost angry. Yeah. It's like kind of red in the face and angry.
Do I still have my notebook? I check for the notebook that I had pulled out. Is it still there or is it gone?
At this point right now, you do have your notebook. You kind of flip over and you do not see any notes of what you had written.
Yeah, he's just kind of staring at those pages and flipping over back and forth a little bit as he kind of just looks at the notebook.
Out of curiosity, Veronica, does V carry a weapon on her?
She does.
Is it noticeable? It's concealed. Is there any chance that? I mean, I was in the military for a decade. Is there any chance I can spot where it's concealed?
Yeah, go ahead and roll me, let's say, a survey check.
Cool. Oh, all right. That's 5.
Yeah, you see it. You see that. I think as you start to kind of like notice distance in your markings there, you notice that you probably have to move. You may have to move past Sinclair to grab it, and you're not really sure how fast this dude is, as far as Alan goes.
Yeah. Is my chair still intact?
Yeah.
I will say also, because of the experience she just had, her hand is probably resting right where it's concealed, like ready to pull it out.
Okay.
Because she did just go through something as well.
Oh, then yeah, if I see that and knowing where it's at, I think full on eye contact in the if you want to go, I'm with you.
Okay. What's Sinclair
She-
look?
Oh, sorry.
I think Sinclair is. I think he just sees Sinclair's hand, like right at his stomach, as though it was still holding the shears. I don't think he no longer sees them, but he feels that it's still there, and he's just so focused that that's what he's putting his attention on. I believe. I don't. Again, sort of same question with Harlow. I doubt he has shears in his hand right now, but
Sinclair. Make sure that you are who I think you are.
I think I might be who you think I be.
You use the shears in your hand.
So I think Sinclair. I think Sinclair has the shears to his stomach, and I think like in a rapid movement, he just takes it and slaps it right on the table.
Okay. Everyone around sees Sinclair just slaps his hand on the table.
Jesus Christ, Sinclair.
Okay. I understand, and listen, like I said, there's always the door there. I know you're all upset. You're all in various stages of grief. I'm willing to talk to you about everything, but if you are wanting to move forward to make sure that what you experience never has to happen to anyone else here in anywhere else in the North Shore.
That's
And I'm
happening
gonna
to
keep
other people?
that and probably worse, Miss Evans.
And we're the only people doing shit about it. Is that what you're saying? You're calling on us?
We sometimes work with the members of the police. There's an understanding that a couple of us in Candela are PIs, police investigators, but that is obviously not completely true. I know what this feels like. I've been here. And the reason why I am still here is because I have the understanding and feeling of personal responsibility to make sure that no one else, boy, girl, man, woman, whatever, ever has to experience that. I'm going to keep talking. But at any point in time, if you guys want to leave, there's the door. At this point, we are going to fast forward. The fledgling lightkeeper that is Alan Miller explains to you everything about what they know about the world surrounding or the world on the other side. They explain the phenomena of what they call flares, which is the spaces where, we'll say, just kind of giving the general sort of example, the flares, the feeling of the spaces of the fabric of our realities, where it is paper thin and things sometimes come through. There's an understanding of a substance itself that seems to latch on and change people in a physical sense, uh, in ways that are unexplained. That has only been categorized by what he calls bleed. He explains that there are weapons against these things. Most of it has to do with having a knowledge and solving the situation with as little violence as possible. As he says that specific part, you see him once again kind of like rub his arm. I think by the end of that speech, he explains, "We are the only thing that is able to keep these things where they're supposed to be. We can't kill them. We can't do anything that would stop them for good. The only thing we can do is push back against the tide." If you are still wanting to move forward, me, my grandmother, and the entire area of Massachusetts are in your debt. Welcome to Candela Obscura. And we fast forward
Meow, 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 meow.
to
Fast forward
a
sound.
it's a not exactly the fast forward sound I had in mind. But at this point of a little bit of a space, a break to be able to have the players just kind of take a breath, breathe out. There is a lot to be done in training. Uh, the general sense is that you guys have about a month to be able to kind of get your shit together on a personal level and to be able to be a force that could possibly um, help in the resistance against this lead. Um, uh, as uh, as asked of everyone before off screen, we have a couple of things that we would like to have happen at this point in time. We are going to go around and say during this time, the questions are: what do you study or train with uh, during the month that you have? Should be related to something along the idea of the skill set that you are rolling with. But it can also be an item that you are adding as your normal thing in gear. It's completely up to you. Second part is who do you have a deep conversation with? We'll say this is kind of just a one-on-one. And then lastly, and this shouldn't take too long, but I would say, how do things look on the home front while you pursue this change? So, say your family life, job life. Um, there is a reality that Candela Obscura uh, doesn't pay in the literal sense, but it certainly does make sure that everybody is taken care of. Um, Normally, that is not necessarily given in the space of money as much as it is given in the idea of what do you need, we will provide, we will find a way. Um, so during this time, we started one way. I like to go opposite that way. We're going to start with Audra. So we'll say I'll ask the questions and see if I know. So what does Audra study or train?
So Audra spends time learning how to control this almost shifting power that she's inherited. When we first start, she has no control over when it happens or what she looks like, hence the very withered hand. Shows up the next day and hand is totally normal, and suddenly her eyes are green. So she spends time practicing how to control it, how to control when it happens, and what she looks like, so that she can fully change her appearance.
Okay. In that space, well, I'll ask the next question because they might kind of go into this. But if it doesn't, then I might actually kind of move back. Who do you have a meaningful conversation with?
There were so many that I wanted to. I think I'd really love to. I'm gonna go with Harlow.
You got it. So here's how that takes place. In the meantime, I would say that over the course of a day or so, you notice that Alan seems to be a little bit more concerned with how you're doing than anyone else. And I'll say in this sort of area of like say role play, there's a certain point where you are Candela itself, which by the way, I guess I should explain this. Further on past this meeting room place, which is very much like a transitional room, you notice that there is a full underground level. I'm looking for the word, but the only thing I think of is lair. There is a massive source of books on the occult, on history, on anything that you can imagine in this. You notice that there is a slew of weaponry and various sort of gadgets that are kind of like locked away on a in an iron cage on one side. Um, you see that there's an entire room that's kind of like off from this that is actually it looks to be like on a like quick inspection. Actually, this is where we'll meet Audra at this moment. Audra, you're kind of like peering into this room, and you see that it is a room just completely filled with just wall to wall mirrors. As you're looking in, you kind of get startled by a voice behind you. Goes, "Everything all right, Miss Hurst?"
Oh, yes. Sorry. Room full of mirrors. You would think that I would have seen you coming.
Yeah. Listen, I just wanted to ask. We'll say at this point it's been like 3 or 4 days. So you've been like kind of like researching with the rest, but really, or at least pretending to kind of research with the rest, where you're really like trying to kind of like get a space of looking up things that would kind of like make sense for the stuff that you're going through.
Yeah.
In this moment, you see him say, "Miss Hurst, I once again apologize if I'm overstepping my bounds here, but your eyes were not blue yesterday. Am I correct in saying?"
No, they weren't. She's like putting herself in the mirror. They're not normally. But my hand is back to the way it was. So there's a
Good news.
bonus.
Sounds like you're beginning to control it. Good. If I may, it actually kind of like motions you over to like actually come into the room.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of like closes it behind him, and I will say, I realize how that sounds in the idea of like where the scene we just left. You've spent some time with him. There's there's other people behind the door. It's not as creepy as it sounds. But he
Full of
closes
mirrors. Any movement he makes, I'll see it.
exactly. You see, he comes kind of up. He says as he kind of closes. Sorry. There may or may not come a time and place. Well, I'll just put it this way: if you want to explain to the rest of your crew exactly what is going on, you certainly can. But I don't want to be the one to let the cat out of the bag, so to speak. You are you have a gift, Miss Hurst. As most would say, and you see with that he actually kind of he goes to actually like he pulls the sleeve down over his arms, as most would say. I would consider if you're trying to find a way that you would be feeling the most helpful, I would try to pursue in controlling that gift. Have you been doing so in any way?
I've been trying to concentrate on how I want to look, but it's only manifesting in certain ways.
Hmm.
I was trying to make myself look completely different, and all I did was give myself blue eyes. So,
Hey, that's a start. From my understanding, a lot of the times people that have your gift never seem to be able to control it. So he says that as like a way that's like supposed to seem uplifting, and then he immediately realizes like that's not good at all. Like, um,
great.
but I will say, I know that your grandmother probably talked a lot about things that you're now realizing were most likely real in some way. But I don't know how much she talked about herself. Your grandmother is kind of famous overseas.
She never really told me much about herself. She would tell me tales of when she was a girl, but again, they just felt like tales. But now I'm realizing maybe they weren't. She
Uh,
left before I was born, so I never knew that part of her.
I see. Yeah. From what I understand, uh, uh, Miss Miss Mrs. Amsler
Hmm.
was uh, was one of the first who managed to be able to manipulate her physical presence completely. Um, she For us people that have small little connections to the flare, it is an interesting story. Yeah, him just kind of like drift off. Sorry. Anyways, I would say you have some big shoes to fill, but also I'm sure a talent to match. So anything I can do to help you along this side, I would say the best way to kind of handle things is to make sure that you always know uh, who Audra Hurst really is. Um,
I'm not sure I knew that before, and I definitely don't know now.
hmm,
Maybe I'll figure it out.
Perhaps. Feel free to use this room to practice. Um,
Thank you.
I will be. I'll be out here somewhere.
Thank you.
He kind of turns and walks off. As you are practicing your craft, I'm not going to make you take a bleed on this in this instance, as you are trying to uh, kind of you're kind of trying to train. For the record, for all of you, you are keeping that brain. By the way, anything any damage that you took, you still have, and the drives are going to stay the way they are as well. But in this case, we'll say that because you are fully practicing, and this is an RP moment, we'll say go ahead and roll a sense check.
Okay. Yeah. Ooh, I got a 6 and a 5.
Nice, awesome. So, what is Audra trying to change?
I think she is trying to um she's like staring at herself in the mirror and just really concentrating, and I think she's just trying to give herself red hair.
Sure, got it. Um, as you're doing so, you feel like I think the way that will manifest this is you hear kind of like a high sort of ringing in your ears as you're focusing on yourself in the mirror, and in that moment, you see your hair start to kind of turn into the very strawberry red that you were looking for, and the ringing kind of gets louder and louder and louder as you're staring at it and you're smiling to yourself, and you see your eyes start to change and your nose starts to change, and then all of a sudden you hear the door opening. Arlo, you enter. you get startled again, and you look back at your reflection, and it's back to the way it was.
Hi.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Would I know at this point that that's something that she's doing, or was that like, would that be completely?
That's up to you guys.
Do you think you would be doing that and more trying to do it in secret, or?
No, I think I would have told everybody, like, this is what I'm going to be working on.
Okay. I apologize.
Just realized there's no music. I apologize. Go ahead.
I didn't even notice.
I came to ask if you had reconsidered either recording or letting me interview you about what you saw in your box. I have asked the others, but understandably nobody wants to reveal that information, but information can be a powerful tool. I am happy to share what was in my box, and but I know you've said no in the past. I came to ask again. It's been a while.
Hello, it's been like 3 hours since the last time you asked.
I lose track of time. It's sometimes 3 hours of research feels like a week.
I'll tell you about it.
Would you like to go somewhere and I can write it down, or would you like to? If you want to do it here, we can do it here. It's up to you.
Oh, let's find somewhere else where I'm not surrounded by images of me. It's a little much.
So, not knowing what was in your box, he suggests the library, or the whatever, I guess, I don't know if it's a full library, but whatever places they're storing, all the different, because that's probably where he's basically living at this point. Sure. Like, just set up with books all around. So I don't think there's any mirrors in the library, and there's many books, but there's a room and there's a desk.
Library seems appropriate. Sure.
All right.
As you maneuver from the going back to sort of like the main room and then continuing on to the library that takes up a significant portion of this like cellar area, you notice you open and you see kind of just a tiny bit of dust that just kind of like floats up as we enter the room. You see there are rows and rows of books of various sort of degrees of various states of being, we'll say, as far as condition goes. But you also see there are two large desks here, both kind of facing the side of the wall, and both of them have a cot next to them. I say, Harlow, you kind of chose one of them to kind of like make as like, this is where I sit. As you notice, I think Audra, just things that Harlow has on his desk that seem to be well, actually, let's say this. Harlow, what do you have on your desk?
It's a mess, but I think he's, he has a lot of open books, and with some of which things written in them, and then also he's brought a lot of his own personal lab equipment just in. So there's various flasks and all the classic kind of chemistry type old timey alchemy, mad scientist type gear, tubes going to places, and
Awesome.
Yeah. So, but it's very, it's very messy. And then, there's just enough room if he wanted to lay down in that cot that he could lay down in it.
I think
probably like
for the
a
sake
book
of,
in it.
For the sake of this scene, I think we see like Anders kind of off, like probably probably in a space of like looking at certain books on a bookshelf, but you can clearly see like Anders has claimed the other desk.
Yeah, I'm sure me and Harlow have been researching together a lot.
Hold on. And he moves some stuff around and tries to find a seat and, flips over a box. And this is silly. You can sit at the desk and I'll sit here, and I have a notebook, and
Alright.
if you want me to go first, I can go first, or you could go first. It's up to you.
I don't mind going first. I'm not really sure where to start. When I was a little girl, my Oma would tell me stories from Germany, where she came from. All sorts of fairy tales with heroes and princesses and goblins and monsters and all sorts of magic. When I was a child, some of those stories frightened me. There was one in particular that was a favorite. A prince fighting a goblin who was threatening a little girl. I liked the heroics of the prince. But there was a picture of the goblin that always terrified me. When we were in that room, I was a child again in my bedroom reading that story. But it was different. It was wrong. The prince didn't save the little girl. He lost. The goblin destroyed him. And then looked at me. It sounds silly when I say it. I was afraid of a fairy tale, but it just felt so real. And knowing what I know now, that likely these fairy tales were real, it sheds new light on everything that I knew.
I think we're all getting a lot of that. I find it interesting that how these things are able to access our memories and how they focus on the strongest emotional parts of our past and our mind. I don't know how they see or access those things. But I very much appreciate you sharing what you saw. I think knowing this, perhaps in the future, if they try to access that sort of memory again, maybe we'll know and be able to help you or know a little bit about what's happening.
I'm going to take this. Go ahead.
No, go ahead if you. I was just about to
I was
start.
going to say, I think in this moment, Audra, I will say the last part of this is to recognize, like, looking back in this phrase. I think we'll just kind of like probably put it into like a brief memory, or you can just kind of just tell me sort of straight out. What is life like home? Life at home like?
So I think similar to maybe what it's looking like for Harlow and Anders, she's moved some of her things to Candela. So if you go to the shop, the inventory is much more sparse, and there's a lot of missing books because she keeps bringing them in, possibly to share with Harlow, possibly to help translate. They're not necessarily magic, but they could be helpful. And I think maybe cinematically, as we, see her maybe piling up, making like a pile of books to take back with her, we look over in the corner and like hidden under the bed, under like with like maybe a bigger book piled on top to keep it shut, is a very familiar looking storybook.
Very cool. Great transition. We snap back to this scene as we hear Audra and Harlow continue on in conversation, but it kind of becomes muffled as we come to Anders. Anders, I'll get it eventually. As Anders is kind of like looking through the bookshelves, what has Anders been up to?
Researching local lore, reading about everything that is available to learn about the events that just happened, and bleed, and just everything that's related to this, and probably having a lot of discourse with Harlow, since we're both academics, about what's going on, trying to stay extremely grounded and be like, it's not really that, it was probably like drugs, and just trying to find a way to explain everything still at this point, in a way that makes sense to him.
You got it. Cool. I would say go ahead and roll me a. Where are you? Go ahead and roll me a. I would say. I remember. Could be a couple different things. So I'll say your call. I'd say either focus or read.
I'll do a focus.
You got it.
For a 4.
Okay. So with a 4, you are trying to research things that are putting a perspective of reality, of logic in into a place that it just doesn't fit. It's like a puzzle piece that just, you feel like if you just find the right one, everything will come together. So I think when we see Anders in this moment, there is possibly a sense of, I think Anders looks noticeably irritated, frustrated, maybe just angry. As you are looking through book after book after book, trying to find a space of like, aha, they messed up here because they said it was this, and that would make sense because logically they would, and you do not find that. What you do find is in the space of this place that has kind of drawn you in some ways to the local lore surrounding what I would say your current area that you actually live in, which I imagine is kind of like the sort of higher upscale sort of area of Salem. You couldn't help but hear the story of the Salem witches. A mar on the beginnings of what would be known as, quote unquote, the greatest civilization of the modern day. A lot of what you're reading about is probably trials and looking through that sort of sense of how something could get this far at this time period. Now, granted, it was a significantly long time ago, but they still had laws in place. Justice still was a burning passion in all of their hearts. So how did something like this get this far? In your research, you have found multiple things that have negated local legend as far as people involved and how they're involved. You've heard tales that there was that the telling of the Salem witch trials from mostly a bunch of very bored and dramatic school girls. You find one place that seems to push on the idea of there being a little bit of a different story here. In a lot of the books that you're reading, the tales of how a demonic entity, often referred to as the devil, appears to these girls and tells them to do the things that they're supposed to be doing. There is a myriad of ways that this devil appears to them, whether it's through a certain animal, as you see, there's a dog, there's a raven. You see it as represented as different members of a local parish that is there. There's even one account of a pastor who was not even anywhere near the area at the time. The only thing you can for sure pick up on is two things. One, even though the collection of these stories seem to have trouble getting their story straight, it all still points to the same woman. Story of a woman who is of unknown origin. And it's frustrating as a researcher to be able to notice that in this day and age, it would have been clearly notated the ancestral sort of the ancestry of this person, but it was a different time. You find the name Tituba. The name itself sounds foreign in a space that you assume either African or most likely of some Caribbean island. And of course, the research shows only that it's either she's from Africa or she's from some Caribbean island. Every account mentions an encounter with her. And in the historical documents that you find, Tituba herself admits to being a practitioner of the darker arts. The odd ending to this story is that there are many people who lose their lives in that. Except for her. That's true, by the way. The other part that you find, and this is probably in a separate sort of book, that you know that at this point in Salem there is a place that is known as Gallows Hill Park, or Gallows Park, which is the place that has been long since claimed as the area where we made our big mistake. Looking through the documents of what you see that has happened during that time period, you recognize that one, there are certain things that are marked on here that tell you that this is not possible that it had taken place here, because the hill in question would not have been around during that period of time. That's as far as you get. Until you said Harlow is the one that you want to speak to, right? Okay. Until once again, Harlow, you are interrupting hunters. We'll say this takes place after your conversation with Audra. It's gonna be really funny when it is Harlow's turn and Harlow has to talk to somebody.
I'm gonna talk to Harlow. Mr. Larson, I see you're still looking for holes in all of this supernatural, esoterica, looking for a logical explanation. Yes.
Yes. I mean no offense to your studies, but there is it can't be what these seem to be suggesting. It just doesn't make sense.
Sometimes
there has to be an explanation.
I agree, but sometimes the explanation is something that has not been discovered, not something that fits within our current model of the universe. We all had these experiences, and they are very unexplainable, and there is so much here that if you accept and then extrapolate, there is a world of research to do on the metaphysics and mechanics of bleed, and just the idea that let me ask you this, do you believe in the soul?
Not necessarily. It's not something I've been convinced of yet.
And I would have agreed with you. However, the idea that this bleed, that it affects people in a way that it is not diagnosable by physician. It indicates the presence of a sort of metaphysical self, a soul, if you will. It is, if true, one of the greatest discoveries of this or almost any age. That is a large leap, but I hope you are a very intelligent researcher, and I hope that we can work together to find out. I am open that there are other rational worldly explanations, but I ask that you also be open that there are otherworldly explanations.
I am open to new modes of thinking for sure, but I mean, hundreds of years ago, medicine was witchcraft, so I'm just hoping to find a way to understand how this may be something we just don't understand yet, but is a science like everything else.
Perhaps I am moving a bit fast, and it will be good to have somebody to keep me grounded. I truly appreciate that. And, what were you just researching now?
The witch trials. Living here, I'd heard of them, but as I hadn't grown up here, it's fascinating that a whole group of people could be so drawn to such violence against each other.
That's true. And much of it unexplained, although human nature is often violent and can be cruel, but not always to the level that has been recorded in the histories of this town. Do you need any assistance? I'd be happy to help you with anything.
Do you know a Fituba? Fituba?
Fituba.
Hit?
Fituba.
Well, do I?
You've probably heard the name, especially in the studies of what you've gone gone through in a... Well, actually, I don't know. That's up to you. As a historical person that is long since has to be dead.
It's not probably his, like, if he's when he's looking for research material, that generally the histories are probably not something he's looking into a lot. I think he's trying to look into, like, and probably more drawn to anything that's more like mystical, metaphysical, but then cross-referencing to see if there are any rules to know about it, or anything he can sort of pull out of all of those that new information, and also anything that might match anything in his book as well.
Right. The also the reality of, like, even an inkling of what you might go to research you see is not... It's not clear. It's not. There's, like, many different references of her being of her ancestry even just being in question.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So I have heard this name, but it is not the history is not what I have been drawn as much to. But you do see the name in many places in the research here in the library. So it has a sense of importance. If you want me to keep an eye out, I will keep an eye out for this name and make notes and references to where it has been mentioned.
If you could, that would be most helpful. She seems to be a trend in much of my research so far.
Well, I'll be happy to do so. There is darkness
appreciated.
here, but it is also an exciting time.
It is fascinating. I will
As
agree.
you say, it is an exciting time. Anders, what is home life like? Speaking of exciting,
Probably hasn't been back since just kind of practically living in the library, researching. Already had a planned sabbatical, so just taking that time to research and see what's going on. And it's just a new, almost like hobby of his.
you got it. I think at this point in time there is the hotel itself has opened for business, and mysteriously there always seems to be a couple of rooms open for members of Candela Obscura, although it is not clearly mentioned as that. In the vein of not really spending a lot of time going home and feeling like you're spending just really a lot of your time living here, we hear in the conversation between Anders and Harlow in the distance, I think we hear an interrupting sort of grunting sound as Sinclair has decided to find a space on the cold stone ground to take a nap and rest his head, finding the bed that was provided to him not to his liking. But before we go into Sinclair's story, we're going to take a 5-minute break. See you guys in a little bit. Welcome back. So, Sinclair, you get up with a grunt as you are clearly seeing you're not going to be able to get any sleep here. And as you decide to continue on whatever it is that you were working towards, or maybe just naturally finding your way, through this skill, it's up to you. But what is happening with Sinclair?
Yeah. Sort of going back to your statement earlier about him not finding necessarily comfort in the bed. I don't think it's so much that the bed is uncomfortable, more so the feeling of if he allows himself to get comfortable in the bed, it'll be that much harder to go back to where he was prior
Okay.
to the situation. I think Sinclair spends his time going to I imagine we're sort of near the coast, overlooking the water where we are.
Yeah.
I think he spends his days overlooking the water, probably with the definitely smoking, and sort of just like observing the world around him, spending the time really intently watching and looking and also sort of pondering this I'll call it that invisible shears that he has still, I imagine. Sort of why does nobody else see them? He practices cutting with them. He, flowers, vegetation, paper if you can find it, just anything he can, just to sort of see if it will cut, what they do.
I think what you see is that as you're trying to kind of figure out what these shears are about, you put it to a stem of a flower, and you're kind of like, because so much weirdness has happened in this point. I think there's probably a point where you actually kind of like wince as you go to cut, and you feel it moves right through the flower. It doesn't seem to be reacting to it.
I think Sinclair sort of just sitting there, like he's trying to do that, and he sort of takes a cigarette out of his mouth a little bit and blows the smoke. Sort of just looks at him for a second. That was Sinclair coughing, by the way. Starts thinking about, why was my blood on fire? Why was my blood on fire?
Okay. Go ahead. I was just gonna. Well, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, and then I think he just like out of a chance to experiment, he just sort of takes the shears and he pricks the end of his thumb with them.
Okay.
Just
got it.
Just to see what would happen, to see if it would cut him.
You feel it fully slice into your finger as you are taking a body in this moment, just as whoever you want to talk to appears. Realize that instead of making you guys go to them, making them all come to you, but
yeah. Sinclair thinks really hard, and he conjures up. No, this is such a. I honestly think Sinclair would probably talk to. He's the closest with CB in the group.
Yeah.
So.
CB, you don't see what Sinclair is holding, but I think you do see the blood. As you, I think you guys are probably like out on the just to like past the porch on the sort of like walkway that is now the new sort of like sidewalk that has now been established here. But yeah, CB, you're just kind of walking out maybe for a smoke.
Sinclair, Jesus, man, what are you doing? Pull out a handkerchief and just kind of press it up against your thumb.
I mean, why would you waste a good handkerchief? It'll be all right.
Sinclair, man, you got enough people that look at me, man. You're important. You know that, right?
Yeah, I am real important. King over here. Yeah. Hey, guess what, CB? You're important. How about that?
No, seriously, Sinclair. You're an important person. If you don't start treating yourself that way, nobody else will either.
Oh yeah. That's how the world works, isn't it? Yeah. You gotta act important to be important, huh? Yeah.
Listen, man, I'm not here to tell you how to live your life, but if you can't respect yourself, then what's it all for?
What do you mean? What's it all for? Are we fighting monsters? Are we building factories? Are we fucking screaming into boxes? What do you mean? What is it all for? It's all for nothing. Nothing matters. None of this matters. It's just about trying to make good the time we got left and make sure we don't have any debts out there. You know what I mean? That's all it's about.
Well, I gotta believe it's more than just about surviving day to day. I mean, I got brothers. I got a mom. It's got to be more than just making it day to day, Sinclair. There's somebody out there that cares for you. Hell, you know what, man? I care for you. You think I just bring you sandwiches? Just because, man.
Hey, I'm appreciative of the sandwiches. Don't get me wrong. That's nothing wrong. Hey, this is not about the sandwiches. This is not to be offensive. I'm not. Hey, UCB, you have people that care about you. You got stuff out there. This, for me, is about as good as it's going to get. And I'm just riding this through. Just trying to keep it going.
It's at this moment, Sinclair, that as you're coughing maybe a little bit more than usual, and you feel like your throat's like almost on fire. You kind of like feel the like sort of sensation on your tongue, and you feel like it's a space. This is mean to say, but it feels like there's almost like a chemical burn on your tongue.
Hey, you okay?
Just Sinclair going into a spitting fit all around.
Mm-hmm. As you look back up at CB to say whether or not you're okay, you see on the corner, like sort of like space of the awning of a house that is only just next door. You see them. They're staring right at you. Their heads kind of just cocked to the side, but you know it. That's how they look at you. You see the 3 blackest crows huddled together on the awning, staring at you.
Hey,
CB.
Yeah. What? Are you?
Do you see that up there?
Sinclair, I'm not gonna turn around and.
The fuck are you looking at?
The fuck are you?
You see fly off. CB, you turn around, you see a flock of birds fly off. Mostly it looks like they're seagulls.
You talking to the birds, Sinclair?
There were 3 crows listening to what we were saying.
You know what? A week ago, I'd have told you were crazy, but you know what? If you saw 3 birds, you saw 3 birds. But I don't think they were listening to us, Sinclair.
They were listening. And we're not alone. I think we better go back inside, lest others hear what we're talking about.
Whatever you want to do, Sinclair.
As you head back up to the porch, and the camera kind of zooms out a little bit. I'm going to assume that Sinclair's home life is right here. So,
He's probably the only person that's home life has improved throughout this whole thing. Let's be honest.
That's totally fair. In some ways, for sure. As we zoom out from this, I think we see further out, looking out beyond the ocean, is V. There's probably, let's say you're on the beach itself. You see probably footprints on the sand from where you came from. Where did V come from?
I think she probably has been out swimming. She would likely be training more physically, keeping her body fit and healthy, and probably shooting. That's probably why she's down out at the beach shooting cans and bottles to make sure she improves her aim. And she's just getting ready for a fight. She doesn't know what fight, but she's getting ready for a fight.
At a certain point, you hear the like heavy sort of sounds of an whatever the learning things I need to look up, whatever the equivalent of an old timey police alarm sounds like, as a chugging sort of vehicle sort of kind of comes up. Whoa, okay, excuse me, miss. You can't be shooting firearms here on the beach.
Not hurting anyone, am I?
Here's the sounds of your voice as you turn and you see an officer that you've probably seen once or twice. And we'll say this is Officer Carson. Oh, okay. Yes, the O'Brien girl. How could I have? Miss O'Brien, you
Mr.
may
Carson?
run certain parts of this town, but that doesn't mean that you can do whatever you want, wherever you want to do it.
Am I hurting the public here?
Possibly. I don't know how good you are with that thing.
She's just gonna turn around and shoot a can off the ledge.
Love it. Go ahead and roll me a control.
Oh my god, that's another 6.
Nice. Perfectly nails it. It goes flipping off, like way behind some bushes on the other side. Whoa! Pulls out his gun, kind of aims these. All right. Okay.
You're a little jumpy with that. Sure, you should be carrying a firearm.
Yeah,
Clearly a bit reactive there.
You know what, Miss O'Brien?
Hmm.
You know what? I feel sad for you. I really do. Because the reality is that there's a lot of wrong that your brothers, your family has done,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a lot to kinda climb yourself out from. I get it.
Mm.
But you have an opportunity to be able to do that. You have an opportunity to be able to make, your family not such a shitstorm for us.
And what opportunity would that be? Exactly. What the fuck am I supposed to do?
Not shoot fucking bullets in the middle of Lynn Beach.
Oh my god, you're such a fucking baby. This isn't gonna change anything. You're talking like I have control in this. This one
Alright.
sorry fucker here just like you. Along for the ride.
Miss O'Brien, next time I see that firearm waving about in your hand, you're going downtown. Well, hold on, wait.
Alright.
We're already downtown. You're going to the station.
Mm-hmm. That'd be a fun experience for all of us, I think.
I'll take my chances with your family.
Mm.
Goes and turns
Good
and walks.
luck.
Who is the person that you'd like to talk to?
I think she would have talked to CB. Just asked him for help with training because clearly she has an inclination that he knows what he's doing.
You got it. So I say CB, you're kind of like guiding Sinclair back into the house and you hear gunshots.
We'll make it a 2-for-1. I think after we drop him off, I would head out to the beach, and I think I would try and as stealthily as possible be carrying a double-barreled shotgun like next to my leg, walking out towards where I heard the gunshots.
You got it. The only person whom you have seen approach you in a good amount of time that does not seem to be flinching at the sound.
Miss O'Brien.
Mr. Porter, you dismissed the coppers? Apparently they don't like shooting guns out here.
I think you've been around long enough, you know they don't like a lot of things around here.
That's fair.
If it wasn't for the cops around here, there'd be no money flowing through this town.
Relatable.
What you shooting today?
Just the 22, so I could weasel away from my brothers without them noticing.
It's a good pistol, but you know most fights don't happen that far away. Why don't you try this? And I'll hold out the shotgun for you in one hand and my hand out for the 22 in the other.
She'll exchange it.
He immediately goes into cleaning it. It's like military precision, like checking it, making sure everything's good, not looking at you. Make sure you put that right up on your shoulder, okay? That thing kicks like a horse.
You might be surprised by how clean and well cared for that gun is, because she was taught how to take care of weapons. And I guess she's going to try to shoot the shotgun now.
So as you do so, I would like, I would say the result of this shot is going to be based on CB's sway roll.
There it is. I'm going to drop a drive into that as well.
You got it.
6.
Nice. You see, I will say this, as you see, like, you're, like, cleaning the gun, you're kinda, like, looking up just to get, because shotgun fire is significantly louder. You're wanting to make sure that you're watching it so that you can kind of react to it well. And you notice that she's still her arm's probably just, like, a little bit out still.
Okay.
You adjust.
Yeah, no, I think without even there's not personal space is gone. I think he just steps right in, kind of tucks your elbow, like forcefully, like puts your elbow up into your side, kind of stands behind you and pulls it back hard against your shoulder, and then just kind of sights right down it. He's right in your ear. You gotta hold it tight, okay? Because what's gonna happen is you pull that trigger, your arm goes all wonky on you, and whatever you're shooting at, if you didn't hit it, it's on you. So you pull that nice and tight. You keep that elbow in, okay?
Right. I think she's a little flustered right now.
As you're flustered, go ahead. No, please.
Now listen, the trigger on this I've been working on it. It's a little bit, it's what you might call a hair trigger. It's not like that 22. All right?
All right.
Nice and slow. Okay, you let the gun do the work for you.
Got it.
And I think he's holding on to you the whole time.
But you sight down. I think you see something in the water. You see like a distant sort of figure that has this sort of like ominous sort of shape. It looks humanoid, but you see that it has hands over their face. I think you've seen this figure a couple times. Definitely more times than you would want to. I think in this moment, that's just where the shotgun just naturally aims for. You let it loose.
So you're saying he swung the shotgun out to sea, essentially?
No. There's something out there. And I will say, like, honestly, as far as like how the shotgun would work, there's no way it's going to hit it. But like, it just gives you something to aim for as you recognize that either that thing is real or not real, but you're going to let it know that it is not welcome here. You've seen this figure. It reminds you of what you saw in the box.
It reminds CB.
No.
You.
I'm talking to you.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I thought you were talking to CB. Yeah. Sorry.
He rolled a sway roll to command you on how to be able to adjust it, but it's your target that you're seeing. Which all you have to tell me is I pull the trigger, honestly. But
yeah, she'll pull the trigger.
Cool. It's kind of a small puff of smoke for a second. You don't see the creature there anymore. Yeah. We'll say at this point it is switched over to CB's kind of like roll on this. But before we do so, we'll say, Veronica, if you want to tell us, like, how is home life? Do they know where you are?
Well, it's been a month, we said. She's definitely gone home a few times to try and, make sure they don't tear apart all the cities trying to find her. I think she's been trying to play it up like she has a special someone, just to piss them off a little, and also to like build that secretive narrative around it. Like,
ooh, okay.
She's been trying to, piss her brothers off a little.
Okay. Where's my fucking music? There we are. Okay. So, CB, looks like you've done all the teaching that you need to, and I think there's a party that probably feels really good about just being able to, kind of pass something on that may make someone not hurt somebody. I think you're walking back to the house. As you're walking, you see, as you're making your way, you see Alan is kind of like propped up against the sort of like the banister to the side of the house. Arms just kind of folded. As you come up.
Mr. Miller?
Mr. Porter. Listen, well, I can't say I can't say it's none of my business. I'm just gonna tell you straight. No time for that here.
That?
Yeah, that.
Yeah. It's not. I don't. What you said, what we're going after, what these things, right? Somebody's gonna have to take them down, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you might have to make a decision that puts someone else in harm's way for the greater good. And that's what I'm worried about. Not to mention, he kind of points down the street to where you see a very dark black car parked about a half mile away. I'm not the only one watching, but be careful.
Okay. Listen. Somebody's gonna have to kill those things. Somebody's gonna have to take care of everybody here. And I think he's still probably got the 22 in his hand. And he just hands it over. I'll keep them clean. I'll keep them in working order, but she looks like she's the most knowledgeable with these things, and she should make sure she can hit whatever she's aiming at, okay?
I'm sure she can do that without your instructions. But
any other pieces of advice, Mr. Miller?
watch your step. The second step there is kind of caved in already. He kind of turns and walks in the house. Anything else for CB? I want to make sure I give you enough space there.
I think for the past month, I think daily, I would assume there's some sort of armory that exists in our bat cave. I think he probably sets up a cot down there. I think probably within the first 2 or 3 days he goes back home, talks to Jeannie. I think he's been home for about 2 years. He has these spells where it just kind of takes him out sometimes for a couple of minutes, sometimes for a couple of days, and I think he lied and told him he's seeking help, and he doesn't come back. And I think he sets up down in the armory, and I think he goes back into full. The last time he felt fulfilled and happy, and I think it's a daily. He is up at sunrise, making his bed, cleaning, dusting, pressing his clothes. I think he's probably as creased as he's ever been in a long time, and I think he spends the rest of the day taking care of whatever weapons or knives, anything down there. I think he's keeping things clean, sharp, polished, and oiled.
Sure. So I think for the first couple days that you started doing that, you would see you would be up and ready to go as you see Mr. Miller, Alan. You see Alan kind of walking every time. Like the third or fourth time, he kind of like comes in. He has something in his hand that you've noticed him kind of carry in a couple times. He goes, "The Porter, he's spent another night down here." This is before the other.
Yeah. Idle hands. It just feels good.
Oh, I understand. Yeah. Listen, you know what? Normally I kind of like I lock up the case before I leave, but yeah. It hands you this like very very intricate sort of key that has it looks kind of like a normal key, except that it's like in this space that it has the like kind of like dip what do you call that, like spikes on one end, except that it's on both ends, and it's a little longer. Actually, I'll say this: you actually see, now I'm making it up in my mind. you see there's actually like 4 of those spokes, and they're all in kind of different sort of angles and whatever, making this a very difficult case to break open. Hey, Veronica, a very difficult case to break open.
You mean it wouldn't work in this game like it never works in the other game? I'm a rogue in all of your games. I will pick one lock one day.
You will get there someday, but probably not in this game. He just kind of hands it to you and goes, I mean, we're gonna have to trust each other after all, right? It's none of my business, but you seem like a guy that probably has a home life a little bit. Have you checked in?
My brother could use some help, but no, it's fine. My dad, he's not around anymore. He used to get these, we call them spells, where he'd get really now that I'm older, he just got drunk and mean. But since I got back from, I get these things, and my brother Jeannie, he knows, and he's been wanting me to get help for a while, and so I told him I was. So he's happy, I think.
Did your father serve as well?
No, he didn't. He owned the butcher shop before my brother. He's just a mean old cuss. He like to smack us around a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. The only thing I can say is war for sure makes a lot of excuses seem viable, so I get it.
What do you know, Mr. Miller, of war?
What I know of war is that there are some heroes that never get sung about. I know. Mr. Porter. Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Miller, as he's like walking out the door, Mr. Miller, thank you for this. But just so you know, I don't trust you at all. But thank you.
Fair enough. I think, the lack of trust definitely makes sense in that regard. There's not anything in a military sort of experience, not anything you can think of as far as war during that time in Europe, as he says he is, of which he also he speaks, we'll pretend it's perfect. He speaks a perfect Boston accent, of it sounding just like a local. So either he's very good at that, or he's not telling you the whole story. You know of tensions, but you don't know any war per se.
Yeah.
And last but not least, we'll climb on over to, it is earlier in the day. Harlow, you may be most likely probably fully asleep at your desk, maybe, as you jolt awake. What has Harlow been working on?
He's been working on sort of, he's just maybe overly excited by all of the different research materials and the possibilities, and he's trying to look up any information about this other world and the things in it, and the trying to ascertain principles of it, and then also he's been trying to requisition materials for chemistry experiments, and just working on various concoctions, and looking up, find if he finds anything that's some sort of way to make something new that he hasn't made. He's trying to experiment in the office, often to near disastrous results, or possibly even slightly explosive results.
Love it.
So yeah, that's it's a lot of, and then trying to find anything in that library that references or can translate or matches his book, his kind of the Gramada Emerland that he's always trying to solve.
Okay. I'll say to handle the former, go ahead and roll me a focus check. I'd say it's either focus or control. You have the same marked in each, but it's up to you.
Actually, I have 3 in focus, 2 in control. So, but they're both, yeah.
Do I have the wrong sheet in front of me? Yes, I do. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna let's do focus. That's a 4. Take the 4.
Okay, the 4. There has been a couple of small explosions that have happened that have created some light burning on some brand new bookcases. I will say you also one of the things that kind of catches your eye particularly is a bleed detector that has been named for you. It looks to be like this very clunky looking device that is essentially kind of looks like it's a walkie-talkie, kind of taped to a one of those searchlight things. It's about that size. You see there's an antenna that's kind of sticking out of it, but it's very large. It's very hard to conceal. It doesn't seem to, as far as whether or not it works, you assume that there's no bleed here. The container is long gone, by the way. But I will say, as you hear that, as you finally kind of set in place what you're trying to design to kind of maybe make it more concealed and smaller. Actually, Evan, you're great at this. So if you want to describe what it looks like, go for it.
Well, my original design for these is a flat round disc that has 2 different liquids in it, and a barrier in between the 2. And the principle of it was that since you have this reality altering areas, this bleed, that if you put finely machined and complicated barrier, the barrier opens just these small parts, that the more complicated it is, the easier it is for any reality altering event to just slightly make it off kilter and leak one of the ingredients into the other, which causes a luminescent reaction. And to me, I think I was more trying to have something that I could, if I could make multiples, or that people could wear almost as those radiation detectors, or the people wear a patch, and as you build up radiation, it starts to glow. So this would be something where people could wear it, and if they were being exposed to bleed, it would start to glow brighter and brighter and brighter, so that we would know what people's exposure was to it. So yeah, that's the device.
I knew I made a right choice in having you explain it, because that's exactly how I pictured this bulkier version working. So in this sense, you do hear, as you're kind of putting the final sort of together, there is a big sort of puff of smoke, as you're kind of like coughing your way through it, you learn that it indeed works as you hear and you look and you see that the area of both liquids seems to have bled into the other side as well. Unfortunately, you also take a bleed.
That'll happen.
Yeah, you find that you have managed to invent a much cleaner source of detecting bleed. Awesome. Who would you like to talk to?
Well, I think I was kind of in the middle of a talk with Audra. Like I was about to go in the opposite direction, so I was kind of thinking we might be able to just like pick up from that conversation and kind of I could I was gonna reciprocate. So picking up from there, like where you had just kind of finished telling me your thing. So sitting in that office area. So what I saw in the box was not. It was not too exciting. I saw my wife and child a long time ago. I've showed you my book. It's obviously an obsession, and it's out. You can see it. But when I found that book, I knew that it was. I'm sure I knew that it was very important. And written on the inside was an inscription that I could not read. And I just felt there was something important. I had to go. And so I went to the capital in Latvia, Riga, to have it translated. And the words were in the original unity of the first thing lies the secondary cause of all things, with the germ of their inevitable annihilation. And I've been trying to find the meaning of that, but that is not what I sought. What I sought was fire and my wife and child. And I did not talk to them. I did not tell them I was leaving. I left. It was important. I could tell that it was important. And I felt that it was urgent. That was around a quarter century ago. And I have not talked to them or seen them. And I do not know what happened to them. And I feel it would be selfish of me to imagine that they were taken care of by someone else. In that town that I came from, we were not wealthy. I don't know what happened to them. And I saw them smothered in the pages of the book. And I did what I always do. And I separated myself from the moment to be an objective observer of the facts. I am not a good man, but if we can do something with this, it can be worth it. It was important, and I think what the book is leading us to is something that could be cataclysmic. Now you know, I suppose, what is my secret and my shame. But you were honest with me, and so I will be honest with you.
Audra, you're about to open your mouth to respond. And all of a sudden you hear, all right, so it's been about a month. Sorry, can we get everybody in here, the main room, the big table, please? As you hear the clamoring of a meeting that is starting to happen on the other side, Audrey, you kind of like spend a moment to kind of like look up as if you're like kind of like about to say something, and you just recognize that it'd be wasted. Go ahead.
I'll just grab his hand and give it a little squeeze.
Thank you.
As you all kind of pile into the main meeting area, you can see at this point it's been a month, and you notice that Alan has probably taken a little training himself on being able to lead and command a little bit better. He's grown a little more comfortable with you guys. For some of you, found reasons to maybe have issues with some of you. But as he comes over, you see he has a manila folder in his hand. I don't know if they were manila back then, but I gotta assume, right? They've never changed, right? Because all right, slaps it down on the table. It's time. First assignment. This may be nothing. This may be something. The local gumshoes over by town has one of them has put something in front of my nose that does look somewhat interesting. There's this man. He flips this open, and you see a picture of a man that is stooped over a painting in what looks to be like a middle of a park. This man right here. His name is Elias Carver. Apparently a well-known, attractive bachelor in the proper areas of Salem. A very prolific protege photographer. Apparently he's gone missing. So the question is, why do we care? Fair. The interesting thing that we're picking up from this is that he has been seen less and less in the public eye. He usually would paint like in the down near the park, as you can see here, or other public places, presumably where he's gaining inspiration, or maybe the eyes of whomever he wants to see his work. Lately, he's been seen less and less, and now he hasn't been seen at all. A certain Margaret Whitewood has come forward to the police, stating that she has paid in full for a piece of artwork that has yet to come into her hands, and she is apparently not the only one, as a lot of older women of Salem of money have stated equally the same. However, she's the first one or the only one that's come to police about it. So there's that. Sorry. So the last known sighting of him was with some friends who decided to remain as anonymous. But he has been seen consistently shouting out the name over and over again, Muse. So I have no idea what the fuck a Muse is, but I assume it has something to do with it.
Inspiration. A muse. That's his inspiration.
Right.
Sounds like he might have found his special inspiration.
It's possible, and if that is the case, then it should be the easier case for you all to solve. But there you go. There's that. So first things first, you guys are free to kind of do whatever you want to do on trying to kind of figure this out. But ideally, if this missing person is connected to something that is more on our sense of things, we want to make sure that we find out as quickly as possible. So if some of you want to go interview Blackwood. You could say that you are on behalf of the law. That should work. Others can kind of sort of look at maybe his house or his, excuse me, sorry, he kind of looks at his apartment. It's located on Proctor's Ledge, so a little bit further uptown, further in. And then I don't know. It's kind of it's up to you guys. I can come along, but I think it'd be best if you do this first one alone.
I'll take the apartment. Anyone cares to join?
Yeah, I'll come with you. I'll make sure you don't get caught.
I will go speak with Margaret, Miss Blackwood.
I'll go with you.
Actually, I was going to ask you, Andis, as being the one that is specifically kind of book heavy. There's not a lot we know about Elias. With his family, it only kind of goes back a certain amount of ways. I mean, again, it is up to you, but I would suggest maybe possibly trying to find a thing on where this guy comes from.
Is he a townie? A townie? Is he from here?
It seems like it. Early 20s. Unlikely that they're going to grow up anywhere else, but
You said he was well-to-do. Would V know him? Of him?
I would say he's not necessarily well-to-do. His clients are, but I will allow you to roll for it. We'll say roll a Sinclair. Yeah, say roll a focus check.
Oh, that's a 1.
Okay. Nope, never heard of him.
I kind of wonder. You said he's an artist, correct?
Yeah, he's a painter,
and that he spends time in like parks and things of that nature. Knowing what I know about artists, they're all horrible drunks and bad people. So, I wonder, is he like a frequenter of like bars or like the seedy underbelly of the city of Boston in any way, shape, or form?
Cool. Yeah. So if you want to look in like these seedy sort of areas of Salem to kind of like figure out what you know, what you hear about from Elias Carver, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I even wonder like, because I mean, I'm even wondering if there might be like if Sinclair's even heard of him in some way, like if he's gained prominence.
I don't
like,
think so.
The upper clientele, but if he's spent time in bars and things of that nature, maybe he's just heard tell.
I would say it makes sense that Sinclair thinks that every artist is like a nasty old drunk sort of degenerate. But I will tell you, you don't know him.
Oh, Joe.
As a nasty degenerate artist myself, I resemble that remark.
Anyways, either Sinclair can either go participate in interviewing the artist, or I guess
he's missing.
Oh, he's missing.
Yeah.
Oh, then he can either go interview Blackwood and support there, or he can go try to track down through the underbelly. One of those.
Okay. You got it.
I'm assuming Anders would know Blackwood somehow.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Did I say Margaret or Evelyn? Hold on.
You said
Margaret.
Margaret. Yeah. So it is. It is Margaret. No matter what you read in the primer. Did I say it right? I don't think I said it right. But anyways, yeah, I'll fix that. So yeah, it is Margaret Blackwood. Yeah, I would say Margaret Blackwood is a very well-known older widow of Salem. She has a her husband was a very successful importer. Worked from the docks. Look at this self-made man. Worked from the docks to where he is now, and she has reaped the benefits from day one.
Okay.
Well, that definitely seals it. Sinclair will spend the time searching through the seedy underbelly then.
You got it.
That's a cool thing to do anyway.
I like Joe gave us two paths, and I was like, you know what, fuck that.
What's we gotta wrap this up. What's Harlow doing?
I was gonna if Anders is gonna look into sort of like family history and stuff like that. I thought maybe I could use the whatever Harvard credentials I have to sort of access a records office in the city and try to like pull up private or like city records of this person or any history and stuff like that. Do that kind of research.
I love that. Yeah, awesome. So we'll say, Anders, if you want to interview Margaret, and then Harlow will do the family history research. You can definitely do that. Obviously, you guys can do that together. You guys can do it if you want.
Okay, I think Audra would be going with me, so we would.
Yep, sounds great.
We'll go interview her.
Awesome. Very cool. So let's see. I want everybody to roll me a D6, and the first one that says I got a 6 gets a 5.
Got a 6.
Okay.
Nice.
Fantastic. Sinclair. So I think in Sinclair in this moment, like it's kind of like the middle of the day, but you're like, I know where I'm going, and you just immediately kind of start to kind of head off into the space of Salem. As you move along, and we're kind of like fast forwarding to you getting to Salem, because that's how this game's gonna work. You get to an area in the park, and I'll say, actually, I think it makes sense that you see the picture and you know that park. So you go directly to that park, and you're kind of just staring out. You're kind of cut to a scene of like you just kind of staring out, and I think you're standing in the exact spot that Elias was in this picture. What's Sinclair saying to himself right now?
Gotta find it. Gotta figure out something. Gotta see what he sees. Gotta see what he saw. Just gotta find it. And I think he's just sort of trying to, yeah.
For the last roll of the night, Sinclair, roll me a sense check.
Since I got 2 of those, and I'm going to use the drive because I can.
Go for it.
All right. Ooh. All right. I got a 5.
5. Sinclair, as you are standing there, you hear kind of the crack of lightning or crack of thunder in the distance. It's the middle of the day. There's no rain. You don't hear the sound of rain, thunder. You start to hear a voice as you're kind of like looking out near the water. Sinclair, as you're hearing this voice, what are you doing?
What is this? What is this?
You hear it immediately stop. You hear the quiet movement of the pond moving through. And we zoom out, and we see a separate house not too far off. See 3 crows beyond the distance. And with that, we will end tonight's session. Bye, guys.
Hey.